very exciting, and they're just a really strong team all around.
Absolutely, but speaking of strong teams, of course, Immunity known for their star power. They've basically got play every single where on the map, in all lanes, in all positions, and of course, probably the cherry on top of that very big cake is Radier. They're 80 carry player, incredible player, great mechanics, incredible CS, great positioning, just never really seems to fault, and he always, as carries his team to victory. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see these teams go head-to-head. Of course, we are going to kick things off by bringing out the teams for you. Let's start it off, guys. Exile 5 Eclipse on the blue side.
And on the red side, we'll have Team Immunity.
So, Papa, we kind of mentioned it going in here as we are talking here before the matches, but this could be the final. I guess important to think about before we do get into the matchups a little more. I mean, what are these teams playing for? It's the Oceanic Season 3 Championship. What does that really mean? I mean, it's $40,000 prize pool here, and not only that, the path to pro continues. The winner of this event, of course, gets to go to Gamescom Germany.
Absolutely. The path to pro means that the team here is one step closer to being arguably the first professional Australian League of Legends team. A chance to get to the World Finals, a chance to really compete and show that Australia is competitive, or the Oceanic region in this case is competitive on the world scene.
And it's good that you mentioned professional organizations as well. One of the interesting changes from today versus yesterday, we had two relatively unknown teams, certainly some veterans in those lineups as well that we went over. But Fig Jam, Hot Soggy Decimate, yesterday's semi-final, kind of just some pickup teams that played, were formed reasonably recently before the tournament. And of course, these two teams completely opposite here. Very well-known Australian organizations in both Immunity and X5.
Absolutely. I mean, they're going to have a lot of VODs, a lot of history. A lot of these players play all the time in Challenger. Of course, Radier on the Immunity side, the first Australian Oceanic Challenger as well. So a lot of strong players, a lot of knowledge. I mean, they kind of know what to expect, and that's the interesting thing here. Both teams played pretty standardly.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the qualifier, I mean, these are arguably the two strongest teams in Australia. They just kind of went through their normal game plan, did what they normally do, and it was a really nice performance from both teams. Never really looked out of touch, really looked on form the entire way through for the qualifiers. And even in a big open tournament like this, upsets can happen. It was a massive, massive bracket of single elimination. Of course, if you didn't know, we had 603 teams sign up for the first play day there on the first weekend, or 2 weeks ago now. So it was really amazing. And of course, everyone kind of expects these two teams to get through. And here we have them now. And as I said, a match that could probably be the final.
And I mean, I think both teams will be looking to win the first one here. I think that will set the tone. I think we'll see a lot of aggression right from the start, even though that's not necessarily what both teams are most well known for, just to try to set the standard, because this is, you can ignore all the previous matchups. You can ignore all the other tournaments you've played. This is the big one right here.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's so much on the line. Just this match alone is worth at least $5,000 extra, of course. So second place is guaranteed $10,000 versus the $5,000 they've already won. And not to mention, of course, the $20,000 first prize. And something that's arguably worth even more than that is the trip to Gamescom Germany and the chance to compete in the Season 3 World Finals as well. So much on the line here for both these teams. Immunity certainly have a reputation to uphold here. They're probably the winningest team in League of Legends history here in Australia. And looks like we're ready to go into Champ Selects. All right, so we're going to kick things off here. X5 Eclipse there over on your left-hand side. We see Vayne band out there. Definitely a target over onto Radier. And they're on the right. We're going to have Ari, the first band out there from Immunity. In fact, you said it before, Papa, these two teams have done their homework. Look how quickly we're going through these bands.
Absolutely. You can see these are completely prepared bands. They know what they want to ban out. I mean, Immunity, if I was to explain that strategy for someone who hadn't seen them before, are very Radier-centric. They have an AD carry who's an absolute superstar player, and they kind of team comp around him. So a hyper carry like Vayne fits that strategy perfectly.
Absolutely.
Banning it out takes away one string from their bow.
Absolutely. They just do not want to play against that Vayne. You can see Thresh and Zac band out there as well. Over on the other side, the target for Immunity, of course, is Swiffer over on the other side there. X5 Swiffer, Ari Twisted Fate band out, and Elise band out there as well. And looks like Jarvan is going to be the first pick here. And that is a very interesting pick from X5, because I know they're trying to take that away from Alicia.
And the interesting thing about the Jarvan pick here is that both First Mate in the top and DJ Norman in the jungle both play that Jarvan. It's not just a jungler pick for sure. And it's, I mean, so far this tournament, First Mate has actually in the last 2 rounds played exclusively Kennen. We'll probably see the cannon again here as it's available, but there could be that Jarvan top as well.
Yeah, I guess the thing I have to give up, though, they've picked up the Jarvan here, but Jace has actually gone over to the other side, a very powerful champion. Remember, we are playing on 3.9, so he's not super, super good like he was, but still a very strong champion. It looks like Zyra is going to get picked up here as well, and much like the Jarvan for X5, Zyra can go support there for Rosie, or it can go into the mid there for Heavens as well. And here comes Lee Sin, potentially out of DJ Norman.
And you touch on the Zyra pick. I mean, Zyra in competitive play has been almost exclusively in that bottom lane after the first round of nerfs when she had that really high base damage. But Heaven's Curse loves, I'm Heaven's Intel in this game, loves playing that Zyra mid. So much control, so much AoE burst damage, really powerful.
Yeah, really, and looks like Norman just going through a couple of champions here. They actually picked Miss Fortune and Nami to complete their bottom lane here. And we said one of the strongest players, arguably the strongest overall immunity, is Radier. And it's kind of interesting to see them pick a complete bottom lane here without full knowledge of what's going on there in the bottom lane. But they're clearly confident in this. They want to have some team fight. And Bullet Time Tidal Wave is a pretty good combo, Papa Smithy.
Absolutely. And I mean, Bullet Time and Miss Fortune is kind of a comfort pick for Zerg. He really likes that champion. He likes the AoE control it can bring. We saw the power of mid-game Miss Fortune last up yesterday. Picking a complete bottom lane, not a big deal.
Yeah, and it seems like, interestingly enough, the games between these two teams, in practice, as far as I know, have been fairly even, but it seems like it's kind of one-sided either way. And as you said, game one, such a big deal to determine momentum between these two teams that they're really going to want to try and win it here. And with a nice, aggressive mid-game bottom lane like they've got there with MF Nami. I mean, Nami not so aggressive, but certainly plays into the AoE very nicely. I think they're going to try and set up some sort of, strong mid-game and end the game early and really try and get immunity off their game. And I also really like what's happening here. I think your prediction on Jarvan going top is correct, because we've got Evelyn and Orianna picked up here.
And that's a wombo combo if you ever saw one. Obviously, Evelyn, you can put the ball on her while she's stealthed. When she gets into that closer range, you'll be able to see her, but she has that W ability to move really fast, can get into the middle of the fight, and you can see a devastating command shockwave come out there.
Yeah, that Orianna also serving as a nice blocker pick here as well. You actually saw Heavens over on the immunity side when they were picking before, mull over that Orianna. It's something he kind of wanted, he was thinking about, but he didn't go for it. Looks like Rady here is going for Ezreal, and they picked up Nasus as well in the jungle. And if Vayne is Raid's first champion, which I think it probably is, Ezreal is most certainly his second.
Absolutely. Not a hyper carry in the traditional sense, not that damage hyper carry, but as we saw from I Will Decimate yesterday, when Ezreal hits that item threshold, usually when he picks up that Iceborne Gauntlet, the amount of control he can pull out for how safe he is amazing.
Now, by the way, we haven't really touched on it because we're pretty sure they're swapping it over, and looks like they will. They had Teemo there for a while. I didn't actually comment on it because they've actually played Teemo support as far as I can tell. So that is the thing. I mean, I saw Orianna before. I thought maybe that's going for support as well because Rosie played that at a recent tournament. But looks like they're going to go Anivia here to round things off, and they're going to have Zyra support, as you predicted there, Papa.
Yeah, a lot of control. The Anivia pick comes out. It has that CC. It has burst damage. And I really like the Nasus pick up here. Yesterday we saw 2 Nasus games. In both games, Nasus had a very large impact. In the second game, it wasn't a losing effort, but not for all the effect of the really early pushing that Nasus can put out with that AoE on the Spirit Fire.
Yeah, and you mentioned Spirit Fire yesterday. I incorrectly guessed that it reduces magic resist. It's only armor. When you have a double AD with Ezreal Jace, you really can just do a lot of damage in AoE with all the Jace poking. It's a nice combo, and not to mention, as you said, all the control they've got there as well with Zyra and Anivia. So I really like the comp that Immunity put together, but I know that X5 have also built their own AoE wombo combo style comp here as well, and it's something they're really, really comfortable with.
Yeah, you can really see how the bullet time interacts with the command shockwave, with the Cataclysm, with the Evelyn ultimate. There's a lot of wombo combo there, but if that doesn't work, it's really unclear how the rest of the team fight will play out. There is a lot of onus on that misfortune bullet time to really take down the fight.
Yeah, and kind of going on that as well, we mentioned the 2 star players here for X5 are they mid and junglers. So Swiffer there in the mid, and Norman or DJ Norman there in the jungle. They're really going to have to set a lot of this up as well. A lot of the games where X5 look absolutely dominating, even against a team like Immunity, are games where Norman and Swiffer are just playing completely out of their mind, and they're going to have to get some done here. Evelyn's going to have to pressure really carefully, because that's a sort of jungler where if you fall behind, things can go wrong very, very quickly. Because Evelyn, she's been nerfed a couple times, she's been changed many, many times it seems, but one thing is true, her ultimate is disgustingly good.
Well, it's an ultimate that provides an AoE slow, does percentage of current health damage, and gives her a shield. It's everything you could ask for in an ultimate. It's such a massive control ultimate. And even before then, the stealth, forcing enemies to buy pink wards, she just has a lot of jungle pressure that other junglers can't compare to.
Yeah, and one of the ways Immunity usually go about their games, they're very consistent and very strong in the early game. So Evelynn may put on a bit of additional pressure there by forcing some early pink wards, and that could maybe force Immunity to play a little more passive in lane. So there's not just the great combo, not just the fact that Norman himself really likes Evelynn, there's some really cute, very subtle pressure going on here as well with that Evelynn pick. So I really like this team comp as well from X5.
And then on the Immunity side, we talked about the AoE from Nasus. I mean, Anivia, once she gets her ultimate, clears waves instantly. Jace infamously has really strong pressure. The wave clear is very, very strong on the Immunity side.
Yeah, and I mentioned yesterday, Zyra, her ultimate's fantastic, but you really do need a way to set it up. Glacial Storm Stranglethorns is a pretty good AoE combo, and they're about the same radius as well. So, I mean, there's just so much going for both these teams. I really like what's going on here, and definitely looking forward to getting into this game, which we should have for you very, very soon. Looks like we're just moving in now as we sort a couple of things out. But I mean, as you said, first game here, really going to have to determine some momentum. Very, very hard to call. I think would be wrong to say that Immunity aren't the favorites for this tournament. When it was announced, everyone said, oh, Immunity, okay, we're going to have to beat them. And that's really true. There's any big Oceanic or Australian tournament, you're usually going to have to go through Immunity. But as we've said, X5 Eclipse, they haven't been together that long. But I mean, almost every tournament they've played, they've almost won. But guess who they've lost to?
They've lost to Immunity, and that's one of the things where, as a professional player, if you have that nemesis, if you have a team that really is good at cleaning out the wins, you know, it becomes a psychological thing almost, you know. You can get a big lead and then still, you've never been in that winning position before, so at the last hurdle you fall down. And that's why you have to treat this as a once-off thing. This is the biggest tournament that's been in Australia so far, in Oceania. It's a separate thing. If they can really keep it together and take it down here, everything else is almost nullified.
Yeah, and if there's one team with the skill, with the confidence, and even though they're kind of new, the experience, it's definitely X5 Eclipse. As we said, easily pitched as the grand final for this tournament coming into it, and it's going to be amazing, amazing games between these two. And I have to say, kind of moving back to yesterday, I know all of you weren't here. Apologies if you missed those games. They were pretty nice there, with Hot Soggy Decimate taking it narrowly in 2 games there over Fig Jam. But we saw AoE from Hot Soggy Decimate in Game 2. Now, that game is almost infamous now at this point for going very, very long. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of reliance here on the Wombo combo with Orianna. Orianna is one of those champions with a very high skill ceiling, a champion that I'm sure Swiffer definitely can play very well, but you need to position perfectly, you need to consistently play well and lane well, because she's a semi-weak laner. Her levels are kind of weird with how her passive works out. And as you said, if they don't land that AoE, it can be very hard for them to close out games. And that's kind of what happened with Hot Soggy Decimate yesterday, part of the reason that game took so long.
And that's one of the reasons why Zax's considered a really strong counterpick to Jace, because Jace can do so much work from so much range that you need someone who has that really long gap close to be able to get in on him. Because if you don't have that instant gap close, the acceleration gate's going to come out, the disengage is going to come out, and they'll just reset. So a lot relies on DJ Norman using stealth to be able to get a sideways, you know, ultimate, get right into the middle of the team, despite the fact that she has that sight radius, you know, is able to be seen in close range. And of course, for first mate here, on the Jarvan, he can really close a lot of distance. Will he have to use his flash, you know, flag toss ultimate combo to do it? We'll have to see.
I actually didn't see the summoner spells, and I guess I'll bring it up when we get into the game, but Nasus, as we've seen, can kind of take Ghost or Flash. It seems to be a player preference, but, I mean, traditionally Olaf was the Ghost champion. He was the one guy that always wanted Ghost. Sadly, Olaf has fallen off a little bit, but Jarvan was seen as a counter for that exact reason. There's no way for Olaf to get out of Cataclysm once it starts, and Orianna Jarvan is very, not quite old school, but it feels old school in terms of wombo combo-ness. Anyway, guys, we should be getting to the game soon. Thank you so much for your patience. I hope you enjoyed your time here at PAX Australia. And if you weren't here yesterday, you were in for a treat. I mean, yesterday's games were pretty awesome, Papa Smithy, I have to say. But this is the game that, as we said, could be pitched as a final. 2 great teams going up against each other. It's so great to see such a big crowd. Thank you so much for coming out, guys. Hope you've been enjoying all the League of Legends that's happening, and we'll have esports very, very soon here. Remember, these teams playing for the biggest prize pool I think this country has ever seen for esports. $40,000 on the line, and a free trip to Germany if you happen to win.
And it's that thing where if you were ever to choose an Oceanic show match between the 2 best teams in Australia, this would probably be it. And we're getting it in the semi-finals. So it's just a really exciting opportunity to see 2 massively strong teams play. And there's no clear winner from the outset.
No, and right here live from PAX as well. The first time PAX has ever been here, so it looks like it's first time for everything this weekend. It's been absolutely awesome here as well. And there you are, guys. The very nice crowd. It's pretty amazing to see all of you gathered here. Say hi. Hopefully you guys don't create some sort of fire hazard. I think we had that problem yesterday, but it seems like everybody's cooperating. Well done. And we should be into game 1 very soon here, guys.
Yeah, we're just having some technical difficulties on our side, but should be sorted in a couple of moments.
Yep, no worries. People are, of course, on that. We'll continue to entertain you until then. I guess breaking down the teams just a little bit more as we come through.
Right, so we look on the immunity side, we talk about Radia, but it's not just Radia, right? I mean,
No.
Radia is the carrier. You often see Radia-centric comps, but they haven't done that here. It's not a Vayne shield comp, is it? It's not something like the Type A Assassins Vayne comp they ran where it was all about keeping Vayne safe. This is, again, Ezreal. The Ezreal we know, it's going to be a blue Ezreal. I mean, might be after a Bloodthirster or something like that, but it will be a blue Ezreal. And from there, he's going to kind of be relied on to peel for himself. He's going to need to make his own options. He's going to be his own escape mechanism, and the rest of the team are going to fight accordingly.
And that's one of the things that I really like about the team that Immunity have built here. We actually saw it yesterday, I believe, as well with Fig Jam playing in game 2. But when you have a blue Ezreal, you know, he doesn't do as much damage. He's more of a poke kite champion, as you've mentioned. Having an extra AD, especially someone as versatile as Jace, is really valuable. And we don't talk about double AD all that much, but Jace is probably, actually Jace Ezreal is probably the best double AD duo you could have if that's the sort of comp you wanted to go after.
And that's what we have here. And Jace, as we often point out, is almost like an AD carrier in terms of his base stats, in terms of his abilities. You know, we focus on the range advantage just because the EQ combo is so strong. Poke is such a strong mechanism without a strong way to heal. So the fact that they have 2 AD carries just means that any unattended turrets are just going to be mown down by their double AD strategy.
Yep, but of course we cannot deny the wombo combo potential here for X5 as well. There's many, many AoEs. In fact, there are 5 if you want to count Cataclysm. It's kind of loose, but yeah, lots and lots of damage that could potentially go in there. And I think definitely in this game, X5 are going to want to be the aggressors in lane if they can. Get the Evelynn pressure out early. As I said, it has sort of invisible pressure with the fact that she is invisible and can come in at any time. And if they get ahead early, get aggressive, they can just have an absolutely massive mid game and rip through Immunity.
And we always talk about AoE comps being risky in the mid to late game just because one failed ult and you know your layering of CC, your layering of damage doesn't come together. But I mean, Hot Soggy Decimate in their second game yesterday, they went for that triple AoE comp and executed it perfectly. They did have the blue Ezreal behind doing consistent damage, but it was all about the Rumble Orianna kind of initiation combo, which they pulled off perfectly. So even though X5 really leaning on that AoE, there's no reason they can't pull it out a win here.
Sure, and not to take anything away from either of the teams that we have, as we are moving into game 1, guys, give it up. So if somehow you are just joining us for the first time, welcome here to the Oceanic Season 3 Championships, live here from PAX Australia. We've got X5 Eclipse there, Exile 5 Eclipse over on the left-hand side. They'll be on the blue squad this time around in game 1 in this best of 3. And over on the right, of course, Team Immunity on the red side. So lots of 2 very big teams here, arguably the 2 best, the 2 biggest here, titans even, of Australian esports here. A lot of these players have been around. Immunity, as I said, have been around in some form or another with members since about 2011. So there's a lot on here. And both these teams, with Immunity being a long, consistent team and Exile 5 being a more recent but very consistent team when they started showing up in the last few months. Probably 1 and 2 as far as Australian League of Legends is concerned. And we'll see what happens here as we move out.
Yeah, we can see Exile 5. They're considering their options here.
There's a pretty big stack of people, though. Oh, Swift, a nice ball. Is going to spot off Immunity there. And a good attempt at level 1 there. Immunity really hiding nicely, trying to pick somebody off. But Pause is going to get the ward down there on Nami. Jace gets 1 hit in there. But that's it for that ward there. You can see everyone's just going to walk away now. I mean, this is one of the nice things I like about level 1. Obviously, with the jungle change, you've got maybe 15 more seconds for movement or level 1 action. But it seems like a lot of the teams are correctly warding defensively early on. But not only that, moving in for something, and then if it doesn't work, backing out. Because the last thing you want to do is overcommit to a level 1 strategy and just have it blow up in your face. I mean, XL5 showed a lot of patience there. Because every team wants to get down a ward at the enemy rates. That's a camp the jungle loves to clear really often. So you want to get down that aggressive ward. But, I mean, that strategy that Immunity had would work most of the time, but they had the advanced scouting of the Orianna ball. Prevents First Blood from coming out really early here. And just some really aware play. We are going to see jungle camps getting started off now as well. It looks like both junglers actually going to start at the blue buff here to kick things off. And as we said, jungle pressure very, very important here for Exile 5. Norman needs to get out and really do some work, and he is one of the stars of his team. So we'll see if they can get it done here as we look down the bottom lane. kind of going to be probably a farm fest here. Very defensive supports, interestingly enough, Papa on both sides.
I mean, Nami does have a lot of defensive tools, but we're seeing a lot of Nami picks all over the scene. And that's mainly been because she's kind of evolved into a replacement for Lulu. She does have lane presence. She can apply that Tycho's Blessing either to herself or to her AD carry to show a bit of lane presence. And she functions a lot of ways similar to Lulu.
Similar to Lulu, yeah, absolutely. I mean, her ultimate, obviously very different, but arguably in a team fight, way more effective than Lulu's Wild Growth. And Wild Growth is a pretty good ultimate there as well. I like what Pause is doing down in the bottom lane as well, by the way. Just using that heal, using that ebb and flow, just to do a little bit of damage. And that's one of the nice things about Nami is that you can trade pretty easily as long as you have mana, because of course it does damage to them and then bounces back and heals you. And if you take damage during the wave coming back to you, you're going to heal up the damage that they traded in there and essentially trade up every time.
So no level 3 ganks coming out here. I was going to comment on the fact that blue side, you normally see the red start for the jungler, just so you can be in position for a counter gank at level 3 up the top lane here. But no, both junglers trying to look for that level 4, trying to get very close to that experience, and then consider their options.
Well, I think for Evelynn that makes a lot of sense. As we said, Agony's Embrace, their ultimate, very, very crucial. And we're going to try and see Norman probably try and get 6 a little faster than you may see some other junglers, but we're going to start things off here with a little bit of trouble up now in the top lane here. Alicia is going to be looking, he goes in there, and that's bad news there. Wither coming out on the first lane. The damage in there is all, and JC's forced to flash, but there's 2 flashes in for 1 Thundering Blow as well, and first blood to Swiper.
Fantastic lane positioning there. Alicia able to creep into the brush and pick up the first blood.
Yeah, nice trade down the bottom there as well. Aquaprison just missing onto Rosie there for Pause. That would have been a lot of damage in there for Zerk. And actually, I forgot to mention it, but Zerk, another player who's been around the Australian scene for a little while, he was actually known for his misfortune. I'd completely forgotten that.
It's just a really high lane presence champion. And against a player like Radia, who really is applauded for his mechanics, his lane knowledge down bottom, picking a naturally strong champion is a good start.
And here we come, but you can see there is a pink ward there in that brush. Norman is going to try and say, I think they know it's there, so they're going to try and not get too close here, of course. The brush will not reveal them either. Plant they're coming out, that could have been bad news for Eve. Remember the plants do, I believe, reveal. I don't know if they give true sight, but they do definitely reveal, and Eve, I think, would have been spotted if she walked over it, so that would not have been happy times, but a very, very patient gank here in the ward. Not enough. Eve is definitely invisible, and again, just trying to avoid these plants. This is really, really patient play from Norman. He's going to actually maybe go around this pick. What he's going to go in for, the Aquaprison coming out. And I think Evelynn finally spotted. That's unfortunately going to waste a bit of the time there for X5.
In mid lane, we're seeing actually quite a big CS lead at 5 minutes for Swiffer here on the Orianna. It does have that ranged auto attack, does have earlier mechanisms to clear. You don't really want to use your stun to clear early game. It's when it's level 6 when Anivia's wave clear obviously goes through the roof. So 12 CS, very healthy lead for Swiffer.
Yeah, and I mentioned in the draft that Orianna is kind of a wonky champion when it comes to how her landing works, because she's very good in the early levels, like 1, 2, and 3, and then 4 and 5 are a little less good, and then 6 is, you know, pretty good because you get your ultimate, and then it's depending on the matchup kind of from there. Looks like Alicia is going to roll around the back here. Good stun going to come again. It will hit onto him. The Wither in there as well. The damage out in Heavens is going to go in there. The flash there force as well. DJ Norman coming through the mid to save his teammate. A little bit of damage coming there as well. And good timing there for Evelynn. That would have probably been the killers down the bottom lane. We see the trades coming out. Rosie there. Aquaprison just missing out there. And Zerk taking a lot of damage here. Good exhaust though for Pause out onto Radia. And they will back out from the bottom lane. So looks like in the top lane now as well. Swiper going in again. First minute they're trying to get aggressive. And looks like they'll back out there. No Nasus that time to shut down Jarvan. And I like that First Mate kind of understands he needs to be in Jace's face early on, and he's still being aggressive despite the Nasus gank earlier.
I mean, Jace, the Jace Jarvan matchup works very similarly to a known counter matchup to Kennen, the Jarvan kind of matchup, just because Jarvan, if he's able to get in your face, as we see him take a lot of trade damage up top lane.
Towards the top lane, First Mate going to get baited in for it again. He knows Alicia's there. He's going to knock him up. Going in for the kill there. Pick up Jace. First Mate gets in there. Now it's his ultimate. Maybe he can get away here. I don't think he has flash. No, he does not. If he has EQ combo though, he can Cataclysm and then get out there. But Alicia does not want to chase. And I mean, Jarvan at that point, probably his banner was coming back up, and there would have been a nice escape there. So very, very nice moves in from First Mate.
And what Jarvan proves there is that against any of these really popular Flavor of the Month squishier top lanes, the ones that have the stats more in line with a ranged AD carry, if Jarvan's able to use his EQ to get on top of you, he does a lot of burst damage.
He really does. And now Norman up in the top lane as well. He will speed himself up there with a W. Cataclysm on top as well. And Nasus, no flash up. That's going to be a kill. And a really nice turnaround there as Eve picks that one up. Looks like the excitement dims down as back in the mid lane. Swift is going to return to himself. Now, still with a healthy CS lead there. You can see about 12, 13 CS ahead. Not quite the 20 he might want here, but it's still early days in the lane, of course. And Heavens is keeping up, and now he's level 6. Probably going to be a little bit better at wave clear. Good prison there. Whoa, that was an arcane shift.
Arcane shift against any sort of projectile. We all know the Blitzcrank grab interaction trolls you.
Apparently, Ezreal is immune to Qs, because, yeah, he just completely gets out of the active prison, just managing to blink out of the edge of the animation there. And Radio, as always, known for his mechanic play. I mean, known for just, in general, stellar AD play. And he knows all these tricks. He knows how to get out of this CC. I mean, we saw Decimate's Ezreal yesterday just being so slippery. I hate to maybe say it, but I think Radio could be even slipperier.
We commented on the Jarvan versus Jace max up just about how Jarvan needs that burst damage, needs to get in there in melee form early. Going for the double Doran's Blade here. He is looking to dominate the top lane matchup. And with those items, he's really set up to do so.
He is, and not even too far behind on CS either. In fact, very even there between the two. And you have to know that Swipe is a little bit afraid now. So we could have another gank rotating. Looks like Alicia is going to be picking up his red buff here. So may transition up towards the top lane. Double up down there from Zerk. Just going to clear out some of these minions. And again, ooh, level 6 there for Evelyn. She's a little low on mana, but when she goes back, she's going to have it ready. And Agony's Embrace makes Eve ganks go from okay, you know, dodging a couple of wards, forcing people to buy pink wards, to just absolutely amazing.
It interests me that I see a lot of green wards in the Team Immunity Intel's inventories here. They have a lot of green wards, which obviously brings up sight. It's something you'd expect in a professional game, but they're against an Evelyn. So they're against a champion where green wards are only really effective at buffs, at camps that she completes a lot. Like Wraiths and Wolves are good spots to ward against a jungle Evelyn just because she comes out of stealth to complete them. But other areas is a little bit trivial. I would have expected a few more pink wards here, but if they're used smartly, maybe they can use them to their advantage.
Could be a slight misplay in the top lane there as well. Alicia actually went to kind of gank and then backed off and said, no, I want to farm a little bit more. Then First Mate walked over, went to ward and decided, no, I don't need to ward right now. And looks like Nasus is actually recalling. So First Mate going to get away with that one there. And I can see something very sneaky happening up the top now as well. I think DJ Norman's going to try and move into this one. Going to go in to set it up. First Mate, I mean, they know they can get the combo off in the mid lane here. Swift are looking for the combo, but Heavens will get out of that one. Looks like Evelyn's still biding her time there on the top. Orianna with the blue buff now as well. You do see in the top lane, Agony's Embrace out there as well. First Man gets him with the combo. Will they go for the dive? He goes in, but there's the Cataclysm for the burst damage. Knocks Evelyn out of the way, and that's easy pickups there for First Mate.
And it's very easy to underestimate that lane Jarvan burst damage. It's not something you expect from the jungle, but man, is it effective.
And as you mentioned a lot of times, Papa, that Cataclysm AD ratio is awesome. And with those double Doran's Blade, that was some pretty sick burst there from First Mate.
Already doing 250 damage is that ultimate, so a lot of power right there.
Absolutely. Looks like Nasus kind of said hello down the bottom lane. Heaven's in trouble here in the mid, but does have summoners, should have Rebirth up as well. And Swiffer here smartly checking spots. Alicia moving in there and says, I don't think I'm going to get ganked today, buddy. So really tight play here from Swiffer. Still with a healthy CS lead here, about 10 ahead. I mean, as we've said it, the two players on Exile 5 that need to get it going here for them are the mid and jungler. And right now they're doing a pretty good job. You can see the kill lead here, 3-1 right now in favor of X5 Eclipse. The gold lead, though, not as good. It's about 1,500 or so.
And the mid lane matchup's gone as expected given the champs picks. Both of these champions are more about amassing that CS lead for mid-game to late-game pressure. They're not really about roaming. They have low base move speed. They're just trying to farm up and get to that late game presence much earlier.
Yeah, and it looks like First Mate's actually gone back, but he's bought himself a Vampiric Scepter. I wonder what item he's going to be building. Do you think we might see Blade of the Ruin King, really aggressive job in here? I
mean, Blade of the Ruin King, any AD options, any AD attack speed options, very viable in Jarvan, especially as a rush. Obviously, he'll eventually transition to a very, very tanky person. He needs to, given that jungler is going to be building damage on this Evelyn. But at the start of the game, it's more about the insta-give potential on this Jace.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, speaking of insta-give potential, Evelyn has picked up a very key item here as well. Spirit of the Elder Lizard is now complete there for Norman. And, I mean, the ultimate's only going to get better and better. We've CDR in there as well, actually going to help out. So that item, I mean, it kind of does everything. We've seen it a lot on junglers. And really, the Spirit Stone item, I think people looked at them initially and were like, they seem okay. And now Papa Smithy, they're just everywhere.
I mean, Hate Spike at this point has a 1.29 second cooldown, so you're spamming out that true damage whenever you're applying that ability. If you're able to apply it as often as Evelyn does, it's still a very smart pickup.
I like the move there in the mid that I think you guys saw as well. There was actually counter pink warding happening there for X5, so Heavens knows that he has to ward off for that Anivia, and Swiffer knows that as well. So bought his own pink ward there, wins the pink ward wall by clearing that one out. And that was really, really cute there. I mean, if everyone wants that pressure, wants to help out Swiffer and get him ahead, which is something that X5 do love to do, then they have that option. And speaking of pink wards, at least he's going to clear this one out. And we all know what level 6 Nasus can do with Dragon.
Absolutely. If they have exclusive vision of this Dragon, Nasus is the champion to really just to pop his ultimate and take it down fast. But the moment the ward was cleared, we see Chief Swiffer check and see what's happening.
And Norman, I think, a little too far forward. The Flash Frost, good wall in there from Heavens. The damage going to come through now as well, but Swiffer may try and make something. He opts over Zerk, channeling the board time over the top, but not quite in the right spot. And a great Crossring Roots coming in there as well. Paul's going to try and follow it up. The Stranglethorn's in there as well. And looks like everybody just kind of back away here. A nice clean kill for the most part there on Norman, and just a little too far forward there for Evelyn, and a nice little bait there from Immunity.
There was just a miscommunication there, pastry time. Swiffer was looking to use Norman as a ball carrier there. Norman was in the middle of the team, flashed out, and the only person the shockwave hit was the tanky Nasus, so no kills taken down there.
Yeah, it looks like a nice bit of pressure, though, actually applied by Exile 5. They're going to force Immunity to back off that Dragon there. I mean, Swiffer didn't have his ultimate. Evelyn's dead. Jace was top lane, but so was Jarvan, so that wasn't really a thing. His first mate actually pushes Jace out of his lane and takes the top turret, and weren't really paying attention to the CS before, but look, it's like 25 ahead right now for first mate.
And just like the Jarvan Kennen matchup that's more traditional, it's very clear here that Jarvan in the lane gives Jace a lot of problems.
It really does here. So Swiper, I mean, he's still on Jace, still an absolutely fantastic player, but a little bit behind here to kick things off here in the early stages of this game. We're just over 13.5 minutes now as Swiffer gets donated another blue buff for himself. Heavens going to go back kind of low on mana, has the tier, has the catalyst, has still stayed only about 10 CS behind, so hasn't dropped too far there, which is nice, although Swiffer obviously CSing nicely himself. Looks like Rod of Ages going to be the pickup here for Anivia with that blasting one, and I like this as well, another vision ward for Anivia.
Yeah, just trying to keep repinking and repinking mid lane, keep pinking and repinking any important gank paths, just to try and keep tabs on this Evelyn as much as possible.
Yeah, and with that Dragon still up as well, I mean, both teams can threaten it reasonably well at this point. Exile are probably going to have to wait for their ultimates to come back up, but they're almost all back off, it seems like here, as the time is on the left-hand side. You can check those out. Looks like almost everything's back. We've got Shockwave and a couple more left. There's True Shop Barrage actually comes out there. Looks like Radio wants to go shopping and clear out that wave. Of course, there is Evelyn sitting there. There's a pink ward that X5 own in the Tri-Bush in there as well, so they can sneak it in. And I think with Radio recalling, although he's still here, they're going to actually go for a sneaky Dragon here.
Well, First Mate has navigated from the top lane. If they can DPS this down, very difficult for Jace and Zyra to get out of base. So good map rotation there, good map movement from the Jarvan, secures the Dragon. Yeah,
they're going to have to just try and get out safety. So Swiffer playing defense over there, zoning Anivia out of that fight, and a very clean first Dragon pick up there for Exile 5. So moving through there again, you can see Zerk. Currently BF sword finished up, so going for that Bloodthirster. Ezreal, though, already finished his Bloodthirster, interestingly enough. So that assist gold clearly playing a bit of a part here, because Ezreal's actually behind in CS, believe it or not, in this lane here. That's not something we normally say about Radio, although to be fair, he's only behind about 5. But Zerk, I mean, he's been doing well, but has not quite got the Bloodthirster. Maybe he has the gold for it. I'm guessing that's the case, but he probably wants to do some shopping, and I think that's what is going on here with the waves pushing him.
They're sitting on about 1,400 gold. That was just a wave positioning thing of he wanted to push it up before he bought his Bloodthirster. He'll come back, and there'll be about equal power levels in the bottom lane.
Yep, Swiffer now is all finished up his Athenes on Holy Grail as well. Got Crystalline Flask and just one Doran's Ring. You know what, Papa? I really like that a lot of mids are going just one Doran's for the most part. You know, it's gotten cheaper. It's a little more effective. You know, you need some mana regen. You love the health early on as well. And just mids are happy with, you know, 1. We're not seeing the 2 or even 3 that we sometimes saw back when Doran's were a little better.
Yeah, with the tweaks, you know, the fact that you get a little bit less mana on CSing, a little bit less health. Not quite. I mean, the first one is always good just because then you have, with an AoE clear, getting it back, you know, about that 20 to 28 mana. But after that, going back into your core items is probably more important.
Yeah, speaking of core items down the bottom lane, we can see Sightstone's finished up in there as well, and a Feeler Stone already finished up here for Nami, but no boots, so Paws is going to have to be careful there with his positioning, but a little bit of that support economy kicking in now. As we see, Paws has completed up his GP10. Ooh, spotted standing in a ward there, unfortunately, is Alicia down the bottom lane. So no dice here on this gank, and that's, again, really smart here. Alicia, he's had some good pressure, of course, making the first blood in the top lane, but I mean, just the lanes in general, mid and top, seem to be going away for X5. Bottom lane's going very well in there as well. And I mean, Nasus is going to help push in here, which is good, but there's still a lot of pressure here in the top lane, with Evelyn also kind of sneaking in there. But they might go in here. Good acrobatics. Paws going to get blown up. Stranglethorns comes up. Channels Tidal Wave, but can't quite finish it there. And the Mystic Shot goes out. Really nice play there. Just enough there for Zyra to get in with the CC. And the bottom tower is going to go down in there as well. Really nice. But looks like X5's pushing aggressively here with that Jarvan Evelyn. They wanted to kill Swiper. He's zoned out here in the top. And they might get a tower trade for this.
And this is one of the few times where the Jace nerfs actually come to the fore here, is that with the acceleration gate cooldown nerf, Jace doesn't have access to that same wave clear that you'd expect. You'd think that he'd be able to keep this turret up, but because he's not be able to spam out those EQ combos, the turret goes down and it's an inner turret. It gives a lot of vision control to the red side, to the top red side jungle of Team Immunity.
Yeah, and you can see X5 just under 2,000 gold ahead at this point with that dragon and an extra tower in there. The kills even, of course, right now 3-3. And just a little note from before. Bottom lane, I think Paws feels a little jibbed because I saw the Tidal Wave animation channel. It stopped and his ultimate's on cooldown.
Those little interactions happen sometimes, Bridge Time. We've all seen them. But hopefully they don't get in a fighting position where that cooldown would have been really important in the next 60 seconds or so.
It looks like GP10's finished up now for both supports. We've got a Cages, so a little bit more aggressive there for Zyra as Rosie picks that one up there. And this pickup as well I just saw, which is probably going to pop up now, was we do see a nice push here from Immunity in the mid. Nami has an Oracle. Looks like DJ Noma goes in, 4-man Agony's Embrace. The ball in there as well, but a good old, he flashes forward. He needs a shockwave, but they can't quite get it done. And that is, we talked about it, Papa, the Wombo combo. It needs to go off effectively, and not quite there, unfortunately, for X5.
Yeah, Chase River wasn't able to pull off the shockwave there. It was perfect ball position. In fact, Evelyn actually flashed to be more on top of the team, but they couldn't complete that shockwave combo.
Yeah, just unfortunately for X5, they're going to counter push here a little. They do save their tower, which is nice, as a bit of poke comes in here as well. Nami's also picked up on Oracles here, so I think, you know, with a little bit of a lead here, X5 feel confident moving through now more aggressively as a team. And we talk about AoE, we talk about mid games. This is really now, as we approach the 20-minute mark, the time for X5's team comp to shine. And if it doesn't, you know that Immunity are going to have a very easy kind of mid-late game. Is Rosie going to get chunked down?
It's definitely an important Oracles pickup, but without boots, it's a risky one. I mean, Paws is going to have to stay with his team consistently to clear wards, and they could potentially bait a support death here with a pink ward especially, because the pink wards are the things they want to get the most vision control on.
Yeah, I mean, seeing that Evelyn just generally denying vision for a little less cost, I mean, ward baiting is a very real thing with Oracle, so Paws is going to have to be careful, especially without boots, as you said. One thing I wanted to ask you, Papa, of course we're on the 3.9 patch. Oracles recently got changed on this patch as well. Do you think early Oracles are better or worse now on this patch?
I think there's less downside, because it used to be that 400 gold was such a large portion of your income in the first 20 minutes or so that to pick it up and then die instantly was a huge trade cost. Now the only cost is the fact that you lose that 1 minute duration, and if you die, you lose the about 50 seconds it takes for your death timer and to get back into the map. So I think Oracle's slightly buffed in the change, especially when it comes to the early pickup.
It looks like Dragon is coming back up now as well. You can see the wards being set up here, but Paws with the Oracles. We talked about ward betting. I am moving pretty aggressively in here. We've got blue buff on the Anivia in there as well, so Heaven's going to have plenty of mana for the team fighting. Anivia kind of one of those champions, much like Orianna in a way. The good wall actually on Swift, but the damage going to come through. They're going to go in there, a decent ult coming through, but not quite enough damage onto Anivia. DJ Norman going to come through in there as well. Nast activate, ultimate activated there as Tidal Wave comes through. I think Paws was hoping his team would follow up in there. And unfortunately, X5, I don't know if it's the pressure or just maybe the comp, but they have all the details down, but they're not quite getting all the AoEs lined up.
One thing worth noting here is that of the 4 kills of Team Immunity, 3 are on the support player, 3 are on Zyra here, and even though she's snowballing, she hasn't elected to pick up the early Oracles.
Comes DJ Norman, perfect positioning. They're going to go after Radius Swiper, the target now as well. There's the Cataclysm on top. Orianna ball in there, a Thundering Blow, not enough there as Evelyn was trapped in as well. And a perfect positioning there from Norman, absolutely stellar.
Just as the dragon pops.
And looks like they're going for it. They don't have too many ultimates. Everyone's kind of low. The Ebb and Flow helps out a bit, but despite that, I mean, Immunity going to get this dragon. Really smart counterplay there from Exile 5. They're going to go straight down the mid turret and try and take the turrets 3-1.
If you notice, Zyra was positioning right in the brush there.
Oh,
the amount of CC and control. The amount of CC and control Zyra can put out, very strong. So good adaptation to take mid turret instead.
Yeah, Swiffer a little low. He chunked down by Heavens. Good walk coming through as well. Force the flash out there. Stranglethorn's put through, but a decent defensive bullet time comes out there. And that's going to defend a great ult though coming in. But Heavens assassinates Swiffer there with his combo.
And now Immunity, after picking up the dragon, might pick up mid turret here. So that's even though they lost a member, a skirmish win for Immunity.
Yeah, and you can see the intent there from Exile 5 is a good counterplay to pressure that mid turret when you know the other team is at Dragon and you can't really contest. But unfortunately, they were a little too low to contest when they came back through, overcommitted a little to that turret, and that's going to maybe lose them another turret here. Certainly the damage is coming through. Jace is even coming back now as well, and that is going to actually give IM the turret lead here 3 for 2, and now for them a crucial inner turret down for X5.
It's a weird thing to say, but the map control, despite not having an Oracle, Immunity was able to place just from that Zyra positioning, you know, denying any Dragon skirmish from coming up, then just really intelligent, pushing on for a second turret because they saw the recall going off to the side. They're just playing really, really smart League of Legends here.
And you can see the gold lead has bounced back slightly in Immunity's favor now as well. They're about 1,000 gold ahead here in this one, whereas before they were about 2,000 behind. So X5, I mean, we keep saying it, they have these ultimates, they've got great AoE, but the time is kind of ticking for them because, as you said, Papa, the mid game is really what it's all about when it comes to big wombo combo press, R to win sort of AoE comps. And I mean, if X5, if they can't get there, they're going to get kited by Nessus, kited by Jace, kited by Anivia, and then this is going to be Ezreal Zyra shenanigans all over the place here as Norman actually kind of getting caught. You've got to be careful, tries to dodge it out. Radiant coming through as the damage comes in for Anivia as well, but I think he's going to be able to get out of this one. A decent defensive ult, a good shield in there as well. Dissonance is out of the way, and Drinks the grasping wounds. Now Swiffer in there as well, the 3-man ult. Heavens gets egg there, and they're going to try and make some omelets, but IM comes through here. Anivia is going to be able to get out of that alive with the rebound. Swiffer in a little bit of trouble in there as well. But everybody walks out safely, and what moves there from Norman?
Absolutely. I mean, being able to juke all that, the slows, the stuns, fantastic play, but they aren't able to punish the Heaven's Curse egg there.
No, unfortunately, you know, we're kind of hungry. It's been a little while since I've eaten. It's late for gamers, so obviously it's breakfast time, but couldn't quite get there for the omelet. And ooh, I saw some posturing there around our good friend Mr. Nasher, but not going to happen. Too many wards around, and not quite enough pink wards for Immunity to clear them out. In fact, Zerk here maybe getting sneaky. I think he's actually standing on top of a ward as well. So that was kind of funny. Both champions there standing off in opposite sides there, but they could of course see each other with ward vision on either side there, hoping that the other one couldn't and maybe going for a play, but instead they're going to back off here. Heavens with the blue buff on Anivia are going to completely chunk down that wave. Basically AFK farms there down the bottom and pushes that one past the turret. And X5, they're going to be looking to make something here. As we said, the time is sort of ticking. First mate's looking for Heavens, wanting to get in for the Cataclysm, but no support there for the team to really follow up in. The ultimates, they're coming back up now, but Immunity, they're going to keep getting stronger as this game goes on.
I think First Mate's item build here is kind of symptomatic of X5's problem here. He went the double Doran's Blades for lane. He started working on his Bilgewater Cutlass with the Vamp Set to pick up. Then he decided that he wanted to go for Fight for Dragon, so he wanted to get tanky. And the result of all this is that he has the components for Sunfire Cave, the components for a Blade of the Ruined King, and Merc Treads. He doesn't have a completed item. He doesn't really do massive damage or have super tankiness.
Not quite the steal there for Radiant, but a very good attempt indeed. Swiffer does pick up that blue buff there, so he's going to be happy with that one. But it was a nice attempt. Either way, I think you're right about First Mate though. Obviously the double Dorans makes a lot of sense. He clearly won his lane. He's still ahead in CS. 2-1-2 for First Mate. Had a great early game there with DJ Norman coming up on Evelyn to try and help him out. But I think I agree. He kind of wanted to finish one item or the other. And I think when you're looking to Blade of the Ruined King, you want to get it quickly on Jarvan in that situation. He was kind of going for a little bit of mini snowball. He has finished up his Sunfire Cape now as well. But First Mate, maybe not quite Victoria. Heaven's going to get chunked down. And Nivea's Rebirth should be down here. Very long cooldown there on that one. 5 minutes, like pretty much all the other GA-esque effects. And Super here going to take a little bit of poke. Exile 5 really needs this mid turret, Papa Smith, because they can't really make the plays and make movement, use their oracles aggressively if there's still all that vision sitting in the center of the map.
They do not have a siege comp in the slightest third page turn. They're all about the hard engage. That's what Jarvan and Evelyn and Orianna will do. They're just not in a position to match the wave clear or poke that Immunity's coming out. So turrets are actually very hard for them to get without winning a team fight.
And I think that makes a lot of sense as to why they so aggressively pushed and overextended for that outer turret there in mid when Immunity went for Dragon last time. It makes a lot of sense. You're right in that they don't really have towers. They've got decent pushing power if they can get on top of the towers, but they have to win a fight to do that. So they tried to sneak it away. If they'd gotten it, they would have so much space to move around the map. But as it is, Immunity here just now grouping up as 5, knows that Exile 5 want to get grouped as well. I mean, the goal difference is pretty minimal here. X5 coming into defense, he could potentially find the initiation, but Immunity, as you said, they have poke, they've got great disengage. They can just sit here and wait out Exile's 5 AoE, Exile 5's AoE. Oh, DJ Norman going in, beautiful off there from Swimmer, First Mate on the top, bullet time tidal wave in there as well. Alicia getting chucked through there as well, and that happened in a matter of seconds as Zerk picked that up. Amazing team fight coming up from Immunity. That was half a second of just absolute craziness.
And that's
boom.
what they picked it up for. Even the Evelyn Flash to be on top of his teammates there. Fantastic play from Exile 5. They considered Baron. Notice that Radius still up, still has full health. It looks like they're going to finally be able to push some turrets down. This is what they're doing here. They've killed the enemy team. Let's take some objectives.
Yeah, one of the things that we're seeing a lot in League of Legends in recent, I guess the last year or so is, get kills, take objectives. It's not just about racking up the kills and getting the snowball, you need to take towers. And X5 have a great comp for aggressively pushing objectives after they win a team fight. So they pick up the crucial outer turret that they wanted there. Now the game's a little bit more balanced. And it's kind of funny to say because the gold lead, as you can see there, again, just under 2,000 gold for Exile 5 Eclipse. That's not a massive deal, although around the 30-minute mark, it's a little bit better than it would be normally, say, at 50 minutes. The difference, though, is that there's so much more space now. I mean, there's an outer turret down the bottom lane, but they've got a lot of space to move around the center of the map. Rosie, with his oracles to maybe try and counter up some of the vision, will definitely help Immunity here. So nice timing on that one. But Pause has likely got another oracles on him there as well. Very raw right now with just the Ruby Sightstone, but if they can aggressively move through here, Aquapris and they're going to spot out there and find that they're doing Dragon. I don't think X5 can do anything, but they might be able to get an exit fight here. First mate looking for the hero banner steal, but that one doesn't happen too often.
And if you're an XL5 fan, you might think that just taking down the low health outer turret and mid lane was not a big trade for a 4-kill teamfight win. But given the Anivia, Jace, Ezreal ultimate, all the wave clear on the immunity side, that's the sort of thing where even if it was at 100 to 200 health, it would have to be Tire Dive to take it down. So taking it down, a big win for XL5.
Yeah, and I like his little adaptation here from Heavens. Again, we're on 3.9. This is the patch we're playing on. I believe it's the current live patch. Yes, that should be correct. And Archangel stuff's actually been picked up quickly here by Anivia. She's got the Rod of Ages already, had the Tear of Gold, and has transformed that into Archangels. Now, Papa, why is that? Because can't you just charge a Tear of the Goddess?
They changed the way, they basically incentivized the quick Archangels by changing the mana per charge from just the 4 to the 8 per charge when you change it to Archangels. So what would usually have been maybe a 35 to 40 minute Seraph's Embrace is going to be greatly accelerated here.
Yeah, probably around the 30-minute mark, and of course, they did not make that change for Muramana or Manamune, so Jace is going to have to charge it up the old-fashioned way and, take a little longer there for that one, which definitely reduces some of the power. I mean, you can see Swiper's build. He had a very early tier. He's got Brutalizer Last Whisper now, but still hasn't transformed his Manamune.
He's well on the way to getting, he's sitting at about 680 bonus mana here, so probably about another 4 to 5 minutes to finish there, but it's just a sign of the shift in Manamoon's power. I mean, one of the reasons why Jace has been such an important competitive pick is because he's been able to have that Mirror Mana at about 19 minutes. He was able to charge it so fast with changing forms and the old interactions with Tia. Now the part time's moved up to about 32 minutes. He's still very powerful at that 32-minute mark, but it's not, at the second dragon fight, for example.
Absolutely, and as we look through some of the other items here as well, I see an interesting trend between the two junglers right now. We can see very standard jungle items, and that's of course very tanky, so he's happy to have these, but he's got a Runic Bulwark finished up, and he's got Spirit of the Ancient Golem as well. That's normal, that's a lot of what we're seeing right now. In fact, that's almost all of what we're seeing. Norman, though, very different. He went for the Spirit of the Elder Lizard, which, you have your Spirit Stone, that's what you expect coming out from Evelyn, but now he's gone much more aggressive. Sorkshoe's Haunting Guide and a Negatron Cloak for a possible Abyssal Scepter as well.
And this is all symptomatic of the burn build that's very famous on Evelyn, all about having the Spirit of the Elder Lizard, getting a later Leandri's Torment, and really being able to burn down, because Evelyn does that percentage health damage. You want to build magic penetration to ensure that your upfront burst is massive. And of course, she's a real strong team fighter. She's just not that usual tanky cooldown reduction champion like Nasus is when it comes to build.
No, and you can have your dreams about, being tanky as Evelyn and doing Sunfire Cape damage and hate spike damage and, doing heaps of DPS over a long time, but really Evelyn is a very ult-centric champion. You want to maximize the effect that has, so assuming you're standing in the right spot, he can begin off the wombo combo with Agony's Embrace, ride the ball in, and then first make him get on top there. He is more of the tankier in this situation. What that does mean, though, for X5 is that they're going to have to AoE very, very carefully, because if Evelyn's out of position, and we've seen it a couple of times here in the early stages of this game, if X5 miss their AoE, it's really, really bad news.
Absolutely, but I mean, we saw that previous fight. If they can recreate that one more time, that will either be Baron or, pushing towards the inhibitor. That will be massive, but it was a lot of factors that caused that fight to be just so devastating for X5. Recreating it again, going to be hard.
Yeah, and as bad as it is when it misses, it's really, really awesome when it hits. So, I mean, it definitely goes both ways for X5 here. Kind of a double-edged sword here, and as I said, the clock is sort of ticking here. Immunity going to keep getting farmed, going to keep staying even, possibly even get ahead if they're given too much time. And really, their late game here, I think compared to X5's especially, seems a little better to me.
And looking on the Ezreal build here, no kills yet for Radia, but he's very, very close to that Iceborne Gauntlet. He has the Sheen tabbing over. He has 1130 gold, so he's about 900 to 1,000 gold away from the Iceborne Gauntlet. That will be a massive power jump. It will probably coincide with the Seraph's Embrace on Nivea as well. And that's a point where Immunity will really fancy their team fights, even though with the completed items on the X5 side.
And it's interesting that for Bluebeard, Ezreal, Iceborne Gauntlet is the power spike, because when you look at the stats, they don't seem that great. I mean, we've got an early BT here, which is good for attack damage, but the Iceborne Gauntlet, like, it's good, great utility item, but why is it getting DPS? Well, obviously, the longer you last as Ezreal, the more DPS you can throw out, the more damage you do over time. So it's a little weird and kind of subtle, but it's definitely a big DPS increase overall.
It's an AoE control item as well, and that's something that is probably the strongest thing about it, is the fact that you become... Ezreal's always a very maneuverable champion. We all know about his Arcane Shift. He has the flash as well. But to be able to maneuver and slow the enemy and slow down potentially in an AoE just makes him a chase champion as well. Not just someone who can run away, but someone who can chase and engage.
Yeah, so just looking through the 80 carry item builds there, on the other side there for X5, we've actually got a BT last week, so very AoE, very bullet time centric here for Zerk. That's a fairly common, almost standard Misfortune build. He's actually gone for a Zeal here, which is nice, you know, good stats overall. You definitely want all of those, and it's a nice cheap item. But we've actually got Giant's Belt here instead for Zerk. What do you think that's going to be?
It's just a bit more early tankiness. If he sets down the bullet time, he doesn't want to have to reposition or cancel early. If Nasus gets in his face, he has no way to interrupt the channel. He can just do his respectable damage, and the Giant's Belt will help him tank through that and keep the bullet time channeling.
And I like the fact that Misfortune's kind of an ability-based AD carry as well. One of the players actually mentioned this to us yesterday. One of the reasons they picked Ezreal against Nasus was because Ezreal just does mostly ability-based damage with Mystic Shot, so Wither doesn't do that much. Kind of the same principle there for Misfortune. Even if Zerk is standing there and gets Withered, the bullet time's still going up, and as you said, Papa, as long as he doesn't die, it should go okay from there.
Absolutely. It's only the CC or the Exhaust that would really ruin that strategy, and not something Nasus can bring.
Yeah, Nasus does not have Exhaust here. I mean, there is an Exhaust over... Actually, no. There's no Exhaust there for Immunity. That's a little curious. We're definitely seeing a trend towards Ignite now for supports, which Rosie, of course, has. But, I mean, Exhaust against an AoE comp can feel a little scary.
And Ignite's just that lane control adaptation that's been there for bot lane. It just opens up so many kills. It can open up kills in lane phase that, of course, can warp the phase completely. So it's a standard thing now almost to see sometimes double Ignite bottom, but they want that Exhaust just to stop a diver like Nasus from putting out much damage.
Yeah, I think X5, interestingly, have just kind of been pushing out their waves. It's been a fairly passive last few minutes here in this one, and I was almost afraid that Immunity were just going to go in and sneak Baron buff, which would have been not fun at all for any of these guys, but looks like they're back onto it. They've actually stretched their gold lead a little more now. It's closer to 3,000 gold ahead instead of 2,000, but as the timer ticks away here, as the farm keeps growing, Immunity aren't too worried about that particular difference. It's just a matter of X5 here. They need maybe one more team fight, I feel like. If they have a big team fight, can clear Baron, maybe push towards an inhibitor, I think they're going to have a really clear path to victory. And
I think Swiffer's last purchase tells us that they're ready for that team fight pastry time. The Void Staff and the Blue Elixir purchased a massive jump in power against the Runic Bulwark that was already completed for Nasus.
What do you think of the build here from First Mate, though? He's actually gone for a pickaxe, so he's still got his build water, has his Sunfire Cape, of course, as well. But gone for a pickaxe instead. Maybe he wants a Last Whisper, but... I mean, that does not build Blade of the Ruin King, as far as I remember.
I imagine the Last Whisper was for the base damage, but we'll have to see.
We will here, and again, X5, they need to just line up one more fight, it feels like, in this game. And Immunity, of course, going to use their poke and try and delay that as long as possible. You can see Jace now, Swiper, has really got his items going. We've got Muramana, it's been transformed. We've got Last Whisper, and we've got Black Cleaver. It's poke damage, awesome city right now for Jace. And Immunity feel very comfortable in this spot. As we keep saying, this game is kind of on a timer for X5, and I think the window, they've got about 5 minutes, Baba Smithy, to really make something happen. And you know that it's going to be around Baron.
Yeah, the Hyper Blast is going to be shredding down single targets with the Muramana and all the armor penetration completed. We probably won't see Jace turning into Hammer Foam, only just in case there's an execution option, you know, at the end of a team fight, but during the team fight, he's going to stay in range form.
Yeah, one of the nice things about Jace is he's kind of an AD carry, right? Especially in the cannon form, obviously. I like the fact that he does, as you say, play a lot, just like poke, get in there, do some range damage, but he plays Janitor really nicely. If you start winning a team fight, To the Skies as an AoE slow really snowballs the last few kills for you. Of course, Acceleration Gate, as we all know, is good at getting in there as well. So Jace is not only a very good I guess, semi-carry or semi-AD sort of champion, but plays cleanup duty very well for his team. And that's part of the reason why he's so deadly. He's good at close range once you're cleaning up, and he's good before you engage as well with the poke. And looks like X5, we've been talking about it, they really want to set up here for this Baron. Swift actually aggroes it. I don't think he meant to auto-attack that one, but Baron's going to get a little angry. He's okay though, shields up, and now pause with the Oracles. I mean, could be tense here. This could be the moment. DJ Norman going to go in there, activate, taking into breast. There one Swiper who flashes over. Alicia low there as well. A great tidal wave there. Cataclysm coming through in there as well. And that's good night. Rosie there as Jarvan gets the double kill. Radiant very, very low in there as well. He does get the kill though. Jace actually the shutdown there on the first mate for 500 gold. So 2-for-1 trade, not too bad there. X5 kind of low in this one. I mean, Zerk is still around. Raid is going back now as well, low on health. I think without the junk, no, Norman's actually alive. But I guess they don't want to go for Baron.
I think this is kind of a cautious play, maybe overly cautious from X5. I was watching the time ticking, I was watching the items being completed. It's getting towards the end of their mid-game advantage when it comes to comp here. They have the smite advantage here. Radia had to back, he had about 300 health. He wouldn't have been able to skirmish much at Baron. The Baron was open to them there. It was a risky one for sure. It wasn't secured in any way, but I think it was a necessary risk. So very, very cautious play from XL5 Eclipse.
Yeah, it seems like they were probably afraid of Swiper, who can just poke them over the top of Baron and get in there and play clean. But actually, Heaven's going to get cleaned up. A Raid here snipes him off in the mid there with True Shot Barrage.
The long range equalized that fight. Definitely wasn't a 1v1.
No, not at all. You know, Nivea's like, yeah, 1v1 to Raid. He's like, what are you talking about? I did all the work there.
And this seems like some assertive play based on time.
Yeah, I mean, this is not what X5 wanted, and this is a very aggressive Baron here from Immunity. They're going to go in for this one. DJ Norman skirting around the edges. He knows what's up. They can maybe make it happen. We're going to see a hero steal here. Tidal Wave not available, unfortunately. I think they're going to finish it. Good wall there from Heavens as well, and there's the Baron picked up.
I think that might be the difference between these two teams, at least in this match based on time. The risky Baron, XL5 Eclipse said, nope, let's back out. A risky Baron there, I mean, the jungler only showed up when the Baron was at about 40% health there for Team Immunity. They take down the Baron.
They do, and a very decisive play here from Immunity. And I mean, if this game does go Immunity's way, X5 may be kicking themselves a little. That one small point of indecision could have potentially cost them. And as you said, Papa, it was a calculated risk, but at this point with Immunity with Baron, approaching the 40-minute mark as well as we tick over 38.5, you have to think that with these items coming out, the extra gold and of course the Baron buff on top of it, which is just worth silly amounts of gold as well in terms of stats. They've got to feel comfortable now that, okay, the momentum has shifted, the scales are tipping, now we can try and close out this game.
Absolutely, and it feels like XL5 Eclipse have almost shown their hand. They tried for the Evelynn surprise flash shockwave combo, and it only hit Nasus. We saw Jace flashed over to the red buff, and it only hit Nasus. They didn't pick up any kills from it. It went well, but it didn't get the same impact as the first time we saw it. Third time, I don't think third time's going to be the charm. Yeah,
and I have to say, it was, I don't know if it was a mistake from X5 or some very, very clever planning from Immunity, but fighting in that choke point with flashes up was actually really smart from Immunity. They were able to flash over multiple places and kind of choke them through two different points to the fact where they were able to get out of all the AoE. You saw the last team fight happen in a lane. They were all stacked up as 5 in the middle of a lane completely open. They're in the jungle. They've got a little bit more room to move, and that small mistake of maybe picking the wrong spot to engage for X5 could cost them here as well. And look what's happening now. The Baron buffs up, the regen's ticking away, and Jace pokes coming through thick and fast.
And it's not just Jace based on time. They have the Ezreal poke as well. They have the double AD to take down turrets, and they have a terrible comp to dive in on with all the disengage that Zyra can provide. This is exactly where Immunity want to be.
It is, and even Nasus, actually we mentioned yesterday, this trio here, Nasus, Ezreal, and Jace, all combine really well to actually push down towers. Because Siphoning Strike, you know, it's kind of incidental damage in the jungle, you kind of stack it up eventually, but it works on towers, it does a lot of damage, you know, if you just get in there and able to push down. So any sort of poke that happens here, Immunity can swoop in and clear out structures very, very quickly. And look at this beautiful control there by Anivia. Wall on one side, Glacial Storm on the other, and the tower there for X5 gets completely chunked down.
And you'll notice here that no two members are walking up to hit the turret together. Ezreal and Jace.
He gets it. Oh no, it was just a turret. It wasn't a person.
Ezreal and Jace never came to order the turret at the same point, which is really, really smart play from Team Immunity.
Yeah, look how quickly that inhibitor died, by the way, as well. Ezreal quickly picked up that tower getting the last few hits in, and then demolishes that inhibitor. And I mean, we're going to see rotation now from Immunity. They're coming in, probably going to get this tower here as well. I mean, X5 can try and make a stand. Nami's on the way towards the bottom lane now as well, but that's it. T2 turret done.
And if they never clump, if there's never a spot to get both Jace and Ezreal in an Orianna ultimate, I can't see what a team fight looks like that XL5 Eclipse wins.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate reality here potentially for X5 fans. Immunity, I mean, this is the point we kind of saw it through here, but through just Agonies and Blaze going to come through. They're going to try and go in first mate. Wants to go in on top of Heaven. The Diesel Wall coming through. A good Stranglethorn's in there as well. Tidal Wave comes in there. First mate gets stumped down. Bullet time over the top as well. With Zerk a little late to the party. The Baron buff still ticking here. True Barrage picks up Norman there. They egg Anivia there, but Radiant's still going in on Ezreal. He's going to get rebirth there. 3 kills for 3. Doesn't look too bad, but Misfortune's very low, and Anivia and Ezreal with the Baron buff can easily clean up here.
An instant triple kill, fantastic command shockwave there. Took down Anivia's egg as well, but the blue Ezreal, full health, very safe, going to take down this inhibitor.
And you saw kind of a hasty team fight there. I mean, it was almost do or die here as Homeguard Zerk comes in. He wants to do it, but gets completely blown up there as Radiant. Arcane shifts forward on top of the Glacial Storm, and second inhibitor down now in the bottom lane. And I think Immunity, even with just 2 members, might move in for the kill.
Yeah, second inhibitor being down is almost a death knell. Zerk tried something there, it didn't work, and I think this is going to be game 1 to Team Immunity. Last few hits on the ability. That spawn's too long.
And looks at Radiant. Oh, yeah, Arcane shifts forward for a bit of style points. And I liked a little bit of style there from Pause as well. He knew what was up. He's hanging out. He's like spamming laugh. It was nice. Anyway, so that is game 1 here in this semi-final. Team Immunity go here in this best of 3. I mean, X5, it feels like such little things happen there. But I mean, almost the butterfly effect, it seems like. One little mistake and that was it. The scales completely tipped over there.
It almost feels unfair to call it a game of 2 halves because the second half was so short. Exile 5 Eclipse were in control until that Baron decision, until they decided, okay, let's back up from this. Immunity took a really, really aggressive and assertive Baron and never looked like losing from there.
No, and we kind of said it. I mean, I guess it's nice as casters when you feel right, but that game really played out a lot of how we thought it was. X5 played a really solid early game. We had good pressure from DJ Norman on Evelynn. The Wombo combo didn't quite line up in the early game, and I think that was probably the other thing that made things difficult, is that if they'd gotten a few more kills in skirmishes with their AoE, they would have been a little bit more ahead, and that game would have been a little easier. That Baron probably would have died fast enough for them to want to take it. And at the end of the day, X5, they did their game plan. Immunity knew what they had to do, and a couple of small edges here and there, and they take it out.
It just felt like there was that 4 or 5 minute moment when they were posturing around Baron where, you know, Immunity were being able to shop. They were picking up their key items. They were picking up the Iceborne Gauntlet on Ezreal. They were getting stronger. X5 were trying to get Baron control with their oracles. They finally got an engage they want. They had option to their Baron. They didn't get it. And the moment that Immunity picked up the Baron, that was kind of the end of the mid-game. Once you have Baron, mid-game kind of ends there. And that's where Team Immunity's comp really outscaled them, and a well-deserved game 1.
Absolutely. So a good game 1 there for Immunity. We'll see if the luck changes a little there for Exile 5 as we move into game 2 eventually.